Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video. Now this is a very sort of, I say niche reaction. It's not a niche one, but this video's only got 50 views. And this was suggested through my Patreon again. Once again, as another Patreon suggestion for the tiers that of course people are allowed to suggest, or say allowed, have more chances of their suggestions being reacted to. But this one is the shooting of Ronald Reagan. It's only got one like. I don't even know if this is going to have the best information to sort of see what actually happened in this situation when it did happen. But I did ask before about like, is there a good video on YouTube to sort of explain what happened and like sort of show what led to it or whatever really. And this was suggested, so I don't know if this will be the best one, but it was a Patreon suggestion and the topic intrigued me, so I picked it basically. But if you have a better one out there, if you have other suggestions and you're a patron and you're on the Patreon, you know how it is. Suggest it either in the comments or send me a message. It's a lot easier to read in the comments because obviously, read my messages. I do them. I do read them, and I do reply to some. But it's a lot like sort of easier to see them posted under videos, and it's just more likely to be reacted to really. But yeah, let's get into this one. Hopefully, you guys enjoy, and thank you again for the support on the Patreon. 400 people once again. It seems that at the end of every month we always reach 400 people, and it's crazy to me. I want to get to a point where we're reaching higher and higher. And it does seem to slowly be getting there, but obviously with the consistency, I need to work for myself, really. But for those of you who are constantly supporting, thank you, man. Honestly, thank you so much. It really is appreciated. But let's jump into this one.
We don't know precisely what happened.
Oh my God.
We don't know precisely what happened.
Oh my God.
He's been shot.
The President of the United States has been shot. It's a Monday, and Reagan has one big event that day, is to deliver a speech to the AFL-CIO. It's 2 o'clock, kind of gray day in Washington, and Ronald Reagan's motorcade has just arrived for a speech at the Washington Hilton Hotel, which is behind us. This is the special entrance back here, the VIP entrance that Reagan walked into at 2 p.m. when he arrived.
Government's first duty is to protect the people, not run their lives.
The event is covered by major networks.
It's quite quiet. Let me just turn the video up. That's why I keep looking at the sort of sound. Doesn't seem very loud. As per usual, but this is a very quiet video. Done.
For ABC News photographer Hank Brown, it's a routine job.
We're the pool crew that travel with the president wherever he goes. We wanted to get the picture of the president walking out of the hotel and getting in the limo.
15 feet from that door was a rope line. All the cameramen, everybody's laughing. It was unsecured. No ID checks. People thought it was a press line. It wasn't. Anyone could be behind that line. You see Hinckley's face about 3 rows back. Totally passive. No reaction at all.
Is that who it is? Who does it? He looks like a toddler. Well, not a toddler. He looks like a kid. Like a little kid. Is that who does it?
I got my camera out, aimed it at the door the president was coming out. I could see it through the viewfinder, even now.
Reagan is walking towards his waiting limousine. The Secret Service is surrounding him as he goes towards the car. Just 15 feet from him is John W. Hinckley Jr. He pulls out his .22 caliber revolver.
Fucking hell.
And unleashes 6 shots in 1.7 seconds.
Victim head wound, victim neck, miss, victim chest, miss, victim chest.
1.7 seconds is the time it takes me to say 1.7 seconds. It's that fast.
Bro, these edits are so funny. They're so bad. What are these edits? It's CNN, come on.
The first shot hits Jim Brady, the press secretary, in the head.
Brady is seen here between Reagan and Secret Service agent Jerry Parr.
The second shot hits Tom Delahanty, a DC police officer, in the back. Third shot goes high, hits that building across the street right there. The fourth shot hits Timothy McCarthy, a Secret Service agent, and square in the chest. He's not wearing a bulletproof vest. He falls to the ground. The fifth shot hits the armored, bulletproof window of the car as Reagan and Parr flash behind it, diving in. The sixth shot cracks across the driveway. No one knows where that sixth shot went until later they realize it slapped off the side of the car, slipped through a gap between the door and the door frame. Reagan starts complaining of pain in his back and his chest and his side. Not feeling so good.
And just then, I coughed.
Wait, what? Wait.
Slipped through a gap between the door and the door frame. Reagan starts complaining of pain in his back and his chest and his side. Not feeling so good.
And just then, I coughed. And I had a handful of bright, red, frothy blood.
Oh, wow. So it's a very delayed reaction that he didn't actually realize.
Reagan is in surgery. The suspect, John W. Hinckley Jr. of Evergreen, Colorado, is being questioned.
He admitted who he was. He made no attempt to hide who he was.
The FBI and Secret Service have two questions. Why did he do it? And did he act alone?
He said to them at the time, "You'll understand why I did this when you see my room."
According to sources, John Hinckley Jr., the accused gunman, may have tried to kill Mr. Reagan because of an infatuation with a young actress.
Wait, what?
We can report that shots were fired as President Reagan left the Washington Hilton Hotel. Following that address, we carried live here on CNN. The suspect was rushed to District of Police Headquarters.
John W. Hinckley Jr., age 25, is a complete mystery to his captors. That evening, FBI searched John Hinckley's Washington, D.C. hotel room.
Hinckley had laid out, and this was the bizarre thing, really bizarre. He had laid out there from the morning's newspaper and the president's schedule. He had beside that a statement, really in the form of a letter to the actress Jodie Foster.
In his letter, Hinckley writes, "I am doing all this for your sake, Jodie. I'm asking you to please look into your heart and at least give me the chance, with this historical deed, to gain your respect and love.
What?
I love you forever, John Hinckley."
It was when we read the letter from the hotel room that we finally put the pieces together.
It looked to all of us, gut feeling, this is a lone gunman, and there was the motive to impress this actress.
To impress this actress. Right, again, I've said this in previous videos today, man. How certain people's minds work, and you think this is going to impress someone. I don't get how that can. You can even get to a point where you're like, yeah, man, this is going to work. This is the banker. This is the one that's going to work. No, get into reality. Come on. I mean, it's even worse. The actress looks very young as well. So I mean, that obviously shows other signs of how this guy's obviously not 100% there, but still.
You can understand political motives, but here we have a motive of love.
His edits are so
President Reagan had just delivered a fairly well-received speech at the Hilton Washington Hotel. Then shots.
Within 24 hours of the assassination attempt, the FBI and Secret Service are digging deeply into John Hinckley Jr.'s background.
Leads were going out all over the country. We literally took his life apart to track him off every receipt he ever had, any dollar that was spent that we could track. We wanted to know what he had done over as far back as we could go.
What they found was a long trail of despair, deceit, and delusion. Hinckley had a seemingly normal childhood, growing up in an affluent suburb of Dallas, Texas. He played sports as a boy and did well in school. But as he grew older, Hinckley began to withdraw. His parents chalked it up to shyness.
From the time Hinckley graduated from this high school, Highland Park, in the Dallas area in 1973, until his arrest, there was also a personality change. He had become quieter, more introverted, somewhat of a recluse.
In 1973, Hinckley moved to Evergreen, Colorado with his parents. They hoped he would go to college. He did for a while, attending Texas Tech off and on for a few years, but never graduating. Mostly he spent time in his room, alone, writing gloomy poems and playing his guitar.
Dreamed of being a songwriter, musician. And so for a summer, he spent some amount of time out in LA, pretending he was going to sell his music to companies and all that stuff.
Certainly had a grandiose view of himself, an exaggerated view of his accomplishments as a composer and as a musician.
But he didn't do anything. He sat and watched TV in his apartment. He didn't go anywhere.
He seemed like, in a sense, a lost soul. You know, he goes out to Hollywood expecting something and just ends up in a room by himself and going to see this movie over and over. The Taxi Driver movie. The Taxi Driver movie.
Investigators soon realized that the movie Taxi Driver is a central influence on Hinckley's life. So much that Hinckley even adopts the persona of the lead character, played by Robert De Niro, a disturbed Vietnam vet named Travis Bickle. Hinckley begins dressing in army fatigues, like Bickle. He begins drinking peach brandy, like Bickle. And he becomes obsessed with guns and assassination, like Bickle.
He saw that movie 15 times, Taxi Driver, a very violent movie. And he becomes obsessed with Jodie Foster in this movie.
Jodie Foster plays a 12-year-old prostitute named
What the this film's sounding wild.
Iris.
He thought the relationship with Jodie Foster was real, not something that was based on her role in a movie.
He was just one of these warped guys.
While the FBI investigates Hinckley, Ronald Reagan is recovering at George Washington Hospital, which has been transformed into the seat of government. Reagan also wants to see the Secret Service agent who took a bullet for him, Tim McCarthy.
Reagan looks at him, and maybe he senses something in McCarthy, I don't know. Reagan looks at him and says, so Tim, McCarthy, Reagan, Brady, and Delahanty, what did this guy have against the Irish?
He handled it very well. And as he said to us in his interview, he didn't know what had happened. He still managed to make jokes about it, bring this personality forward to make everybody in the country feel better about themselves.
Everybody but John Hinckley Jr.
This is wild, man.
In this hour, John Hinckley Jr. pleads not guilty to charges he tried to kill President Reagan, and both his lawyer and the government agree he is competent to stand trial.
From the moment he was arrested, the issue of sanity became paramount to the legal teams assigned to prosecute and defend John Hinckley.
Facing a judge for the first time, Hinckley stood while the clerk read the 13-count indictment. Among the spectators were Hinckley's parents. They watched intently as the clerk asked their son, "You plead?" In a clear, loud voice, the 26-year-old Hinckley answered, "Not guilty."
Yeah, you know, Hinckley is an interesting person, but not interesting at the same time.
There didn't seem to be much there. You could not form a rapport with him. He seemed to have little expression of emotion.
Dr. Will Carpenter, a research psychiatrist at the University of Maryland, was hired to give an expert opinion in Hinckley's defense.
I believe that I spent about 44 hours evaluating him. Most of that would have been in interviews with him. He was self-centered, but he wasn't narcissistic. It was more like kind of a loner who doesn't have much else going on, and then would get grandiose ideas, including delusional ideas.
He made up a whole girlfriend for his parents for a year. She didn't exist.
These edits are so bad. Why does he keep saying that? But that's crazy, man. He's made up a girlfriend and he lied for years to his parents. I couldn't even imagine doing something like that. How can you keep a lie for so long without them finding out until, obviously, this has all happened?
For a year. She didn't exist.
She seemed awfully real to him at times. It was very much to manipulate his parents so that he could be off and doing what it was that he intended to do without their interfering.
In the summer of 1980, Hinckley read a story about Jodie Foster. The 18-year-old actress was taking a sabbatical from Hollywood to attend Yale University. So Hinckley told his parents that he was going back to college, but at Yale, not Texas Tech.
And so he makes up a whole elaborate ruse to his parents about how he's going to go to Yale for a writing class that doesn't exist. And the whole time he spent stalking Foster. He finds out where she lives, he's slipping notes under her door, and he's on the phone with her. And he taped these calls.
What is this? Oh no, what is it? Who is this? John. Who? Oh, no, not you, kid. Look, I really can't talk to you, okay? But do me a really favor. You understand why I can't, carry on these conversations with people I don't know. You understand that it's dangerous and it's just not done, it's not fair, and it's rude. Oh, all right? Well, I'm not doing this. Well, I understand that, but it's the same thing, okay? Well, so you just don't ever want to be called? No, it's been really nice talking to you.
We started to yell at the recorder, hang up, because this is what we would tell our wife or our daughter. You hang up right away.
They're just really sad and pathetic calls. And he's reaching out to this woman he idolized and wanted to be part of. And so he gets in his mind, if I get the President of the United States, she'll love me. She'll want me. She'll know who I am.
How'd you come to that conclusion?
And so he starts talking Jimmy Carter.
It was just a month before Reagan was elected. He and President Carter were campaigning hard for every vote.
And in October 1980, John Hinckley gets within arm of Jimmy Carter at an event in Dayton, Ohio.
1 week later, Hinckley is in Nashville, Tennessee, still stalking Carter. When Hinckley leaves, airport police find several guns in his luggage.
He was arrested, never fingerprinted and photographed for carrying a weapon. And the information was never sent to the Secret Service.
So it could have been stopped.
They took the weapons, he paid a fine, and that was the end of that.
Within days, Hinckley is in Dallas, where his sister lives, shopping for more guns at Rocky's pawn shop. He buys 2 revolvers for $98, including the one he'll use to shoot President Reagan.
He purchased it legally at the time, caliber 22. It was a very lightweight, snub-nosed handgun.
He had actually gone to firing ranges. He had trained or given himself training.
John Hinckley took a lot of target practice. He took a lot of target practice. He never shot at moving targets. And Jerry Parr's moving the president towards that open limousine door.
On December 8th, 1980, John Hinckley's fragile world begins to crack when he hears shocking news from New York City.
The news ripped through the air in shockwave. John Lennon shot and killed in the Dakota apartment building where he lived.
In front of his exclusive Manhattan apartment.
The suspect is identified as Mark David Chapman.
Hinckley idolized Lennon. That New Year's Eve, he locks himself in his room at his parents' house, drinks peach brandy, plays his guitar, and wallows in his own misery. Sometime during the night, Hinckley writes in his diary, "John Lennon is dead. It's just going to be insanity. I still think about Jody all the time. Anything I might do in 1981 would be solely for Jodie Foster's sake.
What the hell?
I want to tell the world that I love her."
Oh, it just stopped here. Oh, what? Oh, that's annoying. I thought that was going to be...
Unless...
Oh, my dude. I thought it was going to go on in the show. Fuck. I mean, that's all I can really say. There's no comments to it or anything, but this is a really interesting sort of thing to see. If anyone's got part 2, please let me know, because I would be down to see that. But obviously I can't with this video because there's no suggested or anything. But yeah, this is a wild story, man. I didn't realise it was so deep with this. I didn't there was such a backstory. I just thought it was sort of not a random shooting, because anyone who's going to do it has got to be some kind of messed up. But to this degree, I wasn't expecting it. But shows, man, it does show. But let me know in the comments how this ended out. And again, like I said, please, if you can, suggest wherever the other part is. But yeah, hopefully enjoy this reaction. More on the way, and thank you again for the support. Until next time, peace.